So because I'm so blind, I'm going to review how to do this needle threading, but I'm actually going to use a tool that helps me do it really quickly. If your mom or whoever the adult in the house is has a sewing kit, you might find something that looks like this. This is a needle threader. So tips for threading your needle. Snip the ends off so that they're even, very even, and no little stray pieces of thread. Lick the end. Get really, really close to the end with your fingers. Make the two pieces kind of wind together and hold it very close to the end. I like to hold it in my writing hand. Line the hole and the thread up. Push, push, push. When it starts to come through, grab a hold of it. So because I'm blind, I'm going to use this tool. I'm going to show you how to use this. If you have one of these, you can use it too. So the nice thing about it is this is it's a flexible wire. And I don't know if you can see that very well in this light, but it's a tiny little thin flexible wire. When you get your needle, you're going to put the thin wire, which is also kind of stiff, so it doesn't move around. You put it through the little opening, the eye. See, and I even have a hard time getting it to go through, but this is why I have to use it because I'm a little bit blind. Okay, so now what we have is we have this little wire through the center. Now, easy peasy, big opening. I can feed this thread through the opening in the wire. Now, I'm going to just remove the wire and it will pull the thread through the needle eye. That. So I watched a video and you guys can also try this trick. Let's try it together because I haven't tried it. There's a video online that says that you can take your thread and lay it over your hand and then find the needle's eye and press it down onto your hand and roll it back and push it back and forth. And what happens is it actually did work. It worked. Okay. So now let's get to the actual stitching. First things first, make sure that your needle and thread is in good shape. Make sure you have a nice knot and that you have pulled the threads so that they're even and you have something to hold on to here so that there is the tail that you're holding on to. Okay, now you're going to find a couple pieces of scrap fabric. I'm going to use this brown and this pink. Now, when we're doing a project like this, the idea here is that we're going to connect two pieces of fabric on the edge. So how we do that is line the edges up that you want to connect. Take your needle and thread. And let's start on the corner. And I really don't want to put the knot on the outside of my cute creation. So I'm going to actually try to hide the knot by going in between the two layers first and pushing through the one layer so that when I pull it all the way through, the knot is going to be on the inside of the 2 layers. And when I sew the edge together, it will be hidden. Okay, so I've got the thread coming out of the one side and the knot in the middle. Close it up. And now what we're going to do is bring the thread over the edge. Okay? Bring the thread over the edge, and then let's put the needle through both layers this time. You're going kind of close to the edge. Yes, Amanda?
What happens if you only have like one piece of felt? Because I don't really know if we only were provided with one piece of felt, because I only have one piece of felt, and then I have the donut
Yeah,
pieces.
you can definitely use just whatever scraps you have. And I just grabbed these because I've sewn all my scraps together. Let's see. Let's see. Any little scraps will do. So you guys should have hand scraps. Maybe you have scraps that look like this. We can practice on these pieces. Okay, if you've got little pieces like this, and this is how you're going to do it. You're going to just, you can trim these so they work better for you. And now you're just going to try stitching these things together. Okay. So I can do it with you. You know, like I said, these stitches are not permanent. So you can, if you make a mistake, you can always go back. I'm using this orange thread just because it's easier for you to see on camera. You can't get the thread through the needle's eye. Well, this is why you were supposed to practice over the weekend. But did you see my trick? That one where you take the needle and you rub it on your hand over the thread? Do you need me to show you that one again? All right. Keep trying on that. You have to practice in order to make it work. You cannot just give up and say, oh, later on. Okay, so I want to connect these two. I'm going to start by poking through, let's say, the tan corner. I'm going to poke through the tan corner. So even just like I said a few moments ago, you don't need the scraps, but you can use the scraps. You can sew on a sock, on a t-shirt. You can you can sew on an old rag that's laying around. Any kind of scrap fabric or old garment will be just fine to do this practicing on. All you have to do is line up 2 edges like this. So as I started out 2 or 3 times now, hopefully you guys are still with me. I started on the inside and I went up through that top layer so that the knot is on the inside of my 2 layers. Okay. Now I'm going to bring the thread down and over, and then my first actual stitch is going to be pretty close to where the corners are, that first stitch. I'm going to bring it up through both layers this time. Now, when you're stitching, the smaller and closer your stitches are, the less they'll show up. But for today's purposes, I want it to show up so you guys can see how I'm stitching. So you just keep on repeating the same process again and again. It comes up on one side, you repeat that through both layers towards the top on the edge there. We're just trying to sew this edge together. So I got another stitch there you can see. Now it's coming out of the top. I'm going to bring it down to the bottom and go through again. And I'm just going to keep on repeating this process. Cole, you cannot quit. You have to keep trying. Again, I'm going through both layers. Remember that I am recording this session, so I will be posting it for you to look back on. So if you're at a different place than I am, don't worry. Okay, no worrying. Stitching is fun. And you're just going to find a piece of a couple pieces of fabric, or let's say a washcloth from the bathroom would be a fine thing to use because you can remove the stitches pretty easily. So I want to show you that I actually made kind of a little bit of a mistake here. So this last stitch came up so close to the edge that I'm worried that it didn't actually go through. Do you see how it's just not even, I don't think it's actually connected here, just by a couple of strands of felt there. So I'm actually going to go back up through here and try and catch it again. I don't know if it's helpful when I make mistakes or if it's harmful, but you know, one thing to keep in mind is that even somebody who's had a lot of practice doing this sort of project, I still sometimes make mistakes. And threading the needle is not an easy job. But I know that you can do it. I absolutely believe that you can do it if you don't quit and you just keep on trying. Try this. Can you just get one strand of thread through rather than two? If you're really struggling, can you get one thread through rather than two? Because ultimately the goal is that you have a nice thick thread like this one that we're using, which is a double strand. But if you are still struggling to get that through, just try doing it with one strand first and see if you can make it happen with one strand. Because you know, this is extra hard what we're doing. I didn't give you guys a super easy project because I expect that you should be able to do this. You guys are capable of doing this. And once you learn how to do this once, you'll know how to do it for your whole life. So we practice now and you guys get better at it because you're not supposed to be experts right now. You're supposed to be learning something new. Sometimes learning things that are new it's challenging. Haley, I no longer have office hours and I have an after school meeting today. I would be happy to meet you maybe after school tomorrow if you're still struggling. Will that be okay? Okay, good. Remind me again tomorrow, okay? And I don't have anything on my calendar, so I will just put a note down on my notebook that I'm going to meet with you tomorrow after 2:30. That's when the last class ends. Okay. So each time I make a stitch, I just repeat the same action again and again. I bring the thread from the top to the bottom, And then I place my needle where I want it to go through both pieces of fabric. Push the needle through, gently pull the thread nice and tight. Make sure that the thread is where it's supposed to be, and then back down to the bottom so I can repeat the whole thing again and again and again. Okay, I'm going to keep going on this until I reach the corner, and then I'll show you how to end your thread. Through both layers, pull the stitch down. Okay, I'm getting to the very end of where my edges are meeting. And I'm going to put one more stitch in, and then I'll show you this last stitch. So the last stitch, we're going to start it at the bottom again so that it actually goes in the same direction as the other stitches. So bring the thread to the bottom, open the pieces up that you've just sewn together. And this time you're going to just put your needle through to the center, like the inside. You know, that was the part that we just had held together. So now I've got the needle on what would be the inside of your little donut before it's stuffed. And now I'm just going to do a little easy knot. Don't poke through the fabric at all this time. Just go underneath the last stitch that you made. Go underneath that and grab your needle. But before you get it pulled all the way through, you're going to put your needle back through the loop that is there. See that? I'm going to grab that and pull my needle through so that when these pieces tighten down, it's going to be a little knot. And the knot is going to be on the inside of my donut, you know, on the inside of my creation. There's the knot. Tug on it a couple times gently just to make sure that it is actually tied, and then snip it off. And then, of course, we don't want that little tail to be out. And this is what we just did. We connected two pieces of fabric with a whip stitch, which started out looking like this. Those are my little scraps. I really hope that you guys can see this clear enough. The knots are hidden in between the pieces of fabric here and here. All right, since I'm done with this whip stitch part, I just want you to show me that you know how to whip stitch, because this is the main stitch that we will use to sew all of our pieces together. So when we get started actually making our actual project, what we'll be doing is holding these edges together here and stitching them together. When we add the frosting piece, we'll use the whip stitch to make little loopy stitches all the way around our frosting. Okay, so that is the first stitch that you need to know, is the whip stitch. Don't start sewing your real thing yet. I want to discourage you from sewing the real thing yet. When you get your Whipstitch sample done, you're going to do a little piece of sample like this, and then you're going to just snap a picture of it. Okay. Take out somebody's phone, snap a picture. And then what you're going to be able to put here, onto the Google Classroom is an image of your work. Okay. That's just your practice. Okay. Well, those of you who choose not to do it, that's on you. I have posted the videos for you. So I hope that that will, you know what, you guys' excuses are classic, but I've given you every single thing that you need. And I told you you can use any random piece of fabric. I feel like you guys are giving up a little bit. That's discouraging. But this is the assignment. And I've already had 2 6th grade classes whiz through this. So I'm hoping you guys are going to enjoy it also. And like I said, don't give up on yourself so easily. This is the difficult skill. The whole threading the needle is a difficult skill. Ask an adult in your house to help you. Ask an adult in your house if they have a needle threader. Don't give up. All you have to do is figure this out, rewatch the video this afternoon, and keep trying. Okay. This is not something you're going to be able to do the very first time you see it done. Very few people. I've had tons of practice. So I just want to keep encouraging you to keep trying. Okay. And I will post the videos this